Well, if you have information on vaccine, anti-vaccine, and you are emotionally charged one way or the other, you know you have incomplete information. Because if you have full information, you're poised. If you have partial information, you become emotionally reactive and you make something right or wrong. Anytime you have polarized black and white views, you know you've got subjective bias and incomplete awareness. So I would make an inventory of everything you're finding out about the pros and the cons of the vaccines and non-vaccines, and make an inventory and balance that equation so you're now seeing things from both sides and not reacting. Because I guarantee there's misinformation on both ends. There's no doubt that there's vaccines out there that are helping people, because I know people that are actually been helped by them. I've also seen people also get hurt by them. There's people having reaction, even people dying from them. I've also seen people dying from COVID. I've got 3 fitness gurus that died of COVID. 3 fitness gurus that died of COVID. They didn't get any vaccines. They probably would be here if they had vaccinated. So you don't want to sit there and take a conspiracy perspective. You want to go and ground yourself with both sides, because the COVID is a real virus. It's been around for billions of years and it's real. And to try to make a conspiracy theory the government's doing to you, the government right now is under major stress trying to manage this. I'd like everybody to stop for just a second and imagine if you were in that shoes and you had to deal with all the variables, all the people's opinions, all the misinformation, all the political activists, the lobbyists, and you had to deal with all that. And imagine you being in that and having to make those decisions. Stop and do that before you react and judge something. Then when you do that, then balance the equation. That way you make the wisest action, not emotional reactions. Every emotional reaction that's incomplete will create its opposite by the law of heuristic escalation. And they'll just keep escalating and fighting with each other, these polarities. Balance out the polarities, come to the center. You're going to have more wellness and fitness if you do. You're going to stress yourself out with the other if you don't.
I love this because I have people in my network that are complete opposites. You know, I have extremes, and I'm kind of sitting in the middle. I've had to think about both sides. I've done research on both sides, and none of us have the full picture or the absolute truth. But I really love that you're saying to be balanced about it, because it's just such an emotional, hot topic. You know, it just sets people right off.
We are conscious of one side, unconscious the other. And anytime we promote that and create a promotion of that idea, an equal and opposite view will emerge to counterbalance that. Pro-life, pro-abortion, pro-vaccine, anti-vaccines, pro-guns, anti-guns, pro-Palestine, anti-Palestine. These are classical, what they call heuristic escalations. And anytime we take that, and that's a feedback to let us know that the more we do that, the more the opposite comes in to try to make us aware by what they call a dialectic, to try to bring us into the awareness of the opposite view. As long as we try to be right with one-sided views, the other view is going to come in to try to point out the sides we're ignoring, to try to get to see both sides. It's really to our advantage to see both sides. Otherwise, we're going to emotional react. And emotional reaction usually cost. And long-term vision and balanced orientation is fitness. How are you going to have fitness if you don't have balanced muscles? How are you going to have fitness if you don't have balanced chemistry? How are you going to have fitness if you don't have a balanced mind? Well, that's the very opposite of fitness, in my opinion, is allowing the polarities of government, media, or conspiracy theories to distract you from what your primary mission is. Get focused on what's more important than that and quit getting distracted on things that aren't.
I totally agree. I guess part of the question was, is COVID, in the grand scheme of things, is this a correction for society in some way?
Well, it's what you make out of it. You can take it. I've had people, when COVID first hit in 2020, there was lockdown and all this other stuff. And I said, okay, I sent out a letter to thousands of students around the world, millions of students. I got 17,000 email replies back, literally in 2 days. 17,000 came in 2 days. And I looked at all the benefits. We started organizing and stacking the benefits. I asked them, what are the benefits you've gotten out of COVID already in the first 2 days of lockdown? And I got closer to my family. I'm getting to do this. I'm learning how to do online stuff. If you go and allow yourself to balance your perception, you won't be swayed by an incomplete awareness. Because the truth is, there's nothing out there except neutral events until you come in there and make it either good or bad or right or wrong and polarize the thing with incomplete awareness. If you balance the equation, it doesn't run you, you run you. If you don't balance it, the world around you runs you. You're a follower, and you're going to need governance from the outside and disempower yourself if you have those polarized views. If you center yourself and balance yourself, you're running the show, and people will come to you because of your leadership capacity. Leaders manage paradoxes. Followers take a side on the paradoxes and run into the other side, only to bang your head against the wall instead of learning how to appreciate both sides of life.
I find this interesting because Melbourne, as you may know, was the most locked down city in the world. So a lot of people watching, they may be in Melbourne and they're probably really emotionally charged about all this. Your message to them would essentially be balance it out. Is that what you're saying?
Look, William James, the father of modern psychology, said it very clearly once in 1895, pardon me. He said the greatest discovery of his generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their perceptions and attitudes of mind. So if you let the world on the outside run you, you're going to be a follower in life. You're going to be run by emotions. You're going to be, you're going to live in drama, and you're going to shorten your lifespan. You want to have fitness, you want to have well-being, you want to have wellness. That's not how to do it. The wisdom is being able to take whatever happens to you and find out what's the other side, balance it out, stay centered and focused, and keep on track with what's priority in your life, and do something that serves people. Ask, how is whatever's happening, how is it on the way, not in the way? How is it helping you fulfill your mission? How, instead of how is it distracting you and how is it controlling you? Because I guarantee you there's people that even in Melbourne, because I talked to some people from Melbourne during this entire thing, they said, this is one of the greatest things that ever happened. It's forced me to get incredibly efficient on the internet with my business. I'm now doing it. I don't have my overheads. My business is booming. I'm closer to my kids. I'm managing my life. They're seeing it differently because they've chose to look for the upsides, to balance out the downsides. So, and just know that anytime somebody controls you, it's because you're not controlling yourself. That's important. When people can't govern themselves, they get governed by others. So if everybody's governed and they're automatically using the protocols that are showing to help in epidemics, there doesn't have to be a mandate so much because people are following what's wise. But the thing is they've assumed that there's some sort of conspiracy out there, and I think that that's unfair to people, because what they've done is they're taking misinformation that's going all over the place. Put yourself in those leaders' hands. That's the best thing I can do. I wrote a letter to millions of people the other day and put them in that and say, right now, imagine yourself running the show. You're the leader of millions of people. How are you going to respond? Factor in the liabilities, factor in the legalities, factor in the finances, factor in jobs, factor in all the variables, not some one individual's situation, but millions of individuals' needs. And then see if you don't come to the same conclusion the government is doing. I guarantee if you were in their foot, you might be doing the same thing. It's easy to say, I want my freedom to do whatever I want, but the stats don't show that that's the wisest way to handle it.
I love that. I really appreciate you touching on this because it's hopefully it's going to help some people come to a more balanced viewpoint. Yes, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
We had it in 1917, we had 1918, we had a flu epidemic, right? 50 to 100 million. I've seen different estimates. 50 to 100 million people died in 2 years. I think we're about maybe 5 to 7 or something million around the world. So if we were to compare what that happened, what that did, and they had mandates, they had masks, and they had the same kind of thing, quarantines, the same thing back in 1917, 1918. The thing is, they didn't have some of the vaccines, and they didn't have some of the opportunities that we have today for education. And so if that could be 50 to 100 million people that have died. Right now, it's 5 to 7 or 8 million that's died. We may have actually done something that's actually been helpful. We may not be able to see that yet. But the leading epidemiologists in the world came onto our ship and did a presentation and spent 5 hours handling every imaginable question, controversial question, without an emotional reaction, and gave us some facts. Very informative. I wish the world could have heard that, because a whole lot of misinformation is going around. And you know it's misinformation if it causes an emotion. Just remember that. If it's causing an emotion and you're now emotionally upset or pleased to one extreme or the other, you got missing information. Missing information causes emotion. Accurate information and facts center you and make you poised and make you act wisely.
I mean, yeah, we could talk about this for so long, because I'm like, people are saying, the so-called fact checkers are just opinions, and then who's to say what's an actual fact, and so on.
Why
But
focus on something you're not certain about? Why not fill your day with things you're certain about that you know serve people, and focus on the solutions, not the problems. Dwelling on the problems, making you emotional, things you can't do and don't know anything about, is not your area of expertise. Stick to the facts that you know and what you can do to serve people. I get on and do my podcast. I've done, I don't know, maybe 1,000 podcasts since COVID started, maybe 1,000. Okay. I've done about 700 presentations. I just fill my day with things that I know make a difference in the world and serve people and go about my business. I don't sit there and dwell about that and get emotionally distracted by all the people's opinions. Just absolutely distracting. Stick to what your core competence is that you're capable of doing. Watch what happens.
I love that. Thank you so much. The last question was, where do you see the governments going? Are they going to get stricter and tighter? Like, are we seeing, are governments worldwide going to be moving away from democracy given COVID and what people are saying? Or is this, again,
no, that's ridiculous. Because what you got is this. I've seen in countries when all of a sudden the death rates are going down, the hospitalizations going down, and they open up everything just like it was. They're giving people their freedoms back, etc. And I guarantee you, when all of a sudden we pass through the epidemic stage, people will not be having to wear masks. People will go back on flights. They won't have to be doing these double vaccines and stuff. These are all temporary things. You're letting a temporary glitch interfere with a long-term mission. The government is simply people. It's just people, and they're reacting, and people are reacting, and everybody's reacting because it's a new thing. Focus on what you know. When you focus on what you know and do what you know grows. That's my experience.